Have you ever wondered who was the richest person to ever walk this planet? Forget about tech billionaires or old European kings. Our story begins in the heart of 14th century West Africa, where gold didn't just symbolize wealth, it was the very pulse of a vast empire. Here, just south of the endless Sahara, a legend was born, Mansa Musa. For most of the world, he's a mysterious name, a distant figure on a faded medieval map. But for West Africa and beyond, Musa's legacy is proof that power and generosity can change the course of history. But before we meet the man himself, we need to understand the world that made him. Centuries before Musa, West Africa was already a crossroads of trade ideas and culture. Caravans stretched from the Atlantic to the Nile carrying salt cloth ivory and above all gold. This was a land of griots, keepers of memory who sang of ancestors and of the fortunes and wisdom that shaped their people. Musa's own lineage began with Fagaleya, his father, and Kanku, his mother. They weren't kings or queens by European standards, but nobles respected for their wisdom and heritage. Yet in West Africa, the past was carried by voices, not written words. Most knowledge survived through griots weaving song and memory together. That's why Musa's story lives on not just as history, but as legend. And some legends, no matter how many centuries pass, are simply too great to disappear. Long before the world heard the name Mansa Musa, the land of Mali was already shaping history. This wasn't a place isolated from the world. It was a living crossroads where ideas, goods, and ambitions collided. The Mali Empire rose from the ashes of older kingdoms, uniting a mosaic of tribes and territories stretching from the forests of Guinea to the sands of the Sahara. The story of Mali begins with Sundiata Keita the Lion King, a figure as legendary in West Africa as King Arthur is in Europe. Sundiata's triumph over the Soso Empire wasn't just a tale of war, it was the forging of a new identity. By gathering rival clans, weaving together languages and beliefs, Sundiata set the stage for an empire that would become the wealthiest of its era. In the cities of Mali, life buzzed with possibility. Markets overflowed with goods from distant lands. Scholars and traders from Egypt, Morocco, and beyond made their way to the empire's bustling capitals. Salt caravans creaked across the desert, bringing precious minerals that could buy the loyalty of kings. And above all, there was gold enough to dazzle the imagination of anyone who saw it. But power in Mali didn't rest on gold alone. It was built on a delicate balance of respect, negotiation, and shared purpose. The Mansa was not just a king, he was a unifier, a guardian of traditions, and a bridge between dozens of cultures. This foundation of strength and flexibility would be the secret behind Mali's rise to greatness. As Musa grew up in this world, he would have witnessed firsthand how leaders won trust not by force alone, but by wisdom and generosity. He learned that a true empire is measured not only by what it conquers, but by what it brings together. At the heart of the Mali Empire's greatness was a secret that glittered under the African sun. Gold, Mali's rivers carried gold dust for miles, and the empire's lands held vast mines known only to those who lived there. As trade grew, the world began to whisper about the source of Mali's unimaginable wealth. But gold alone did not make Mali mighty. What truly set the empire apart was how its rulers managed this wealth. All gold nuggets found within the empire were declared the property of the Mansa. This wasn't just a law, it was a system that centralized power, kept resources flowing into the capital, and gave the ruler the means to reward loyalty or buy peace. Foreign traders from North Africa and beyond came to Mali drawn by tales of its riches. In the markets of Niani and Timbuktu, the sight of gold being weighed and traded became almost ordinary. Yet behind this daily business, the empire's prosperity was carefully guarded. Smugglers and would-be thieves faced strict laws. Most local people were allowed to trade only in gold dust, never in gold nuggets, which remained under royal control. But Mansa Musa's genius was not only in controlling wealth, it was in understanding when to use it and when to show restraint. When a group of gold miners rebelled against a harsh decree, Musa listened. Instead of forcing his will, he reversed the law, choosing peace over conflict. This act kept the gold flowing and built a legacy of wise leadership that would echo for generations. Mali's golden age was not just about fortune. It was about the wisdom to use wealth for unity, security, and the promise of a future brighter than any single nugget of gold. Mansa Musa's path to the throne was anything but ordinary. Before his reign, Mali was ruled by a king who became obsessed with exploring what lay beyond the Atlantic Ocean. According to tradition, this ruler launched an epic expedition, sending hundreds of ships westward, searching for lands across the sea. Only one ship returned its captain, telling tales of endless water and impossible currents. Undeterred, the king himself set out on a second voyage, leaving Musa as his regent, but neither the king nor his fleet was ever seen again. With the throne vacant and the empire in need of strong leadership, Musa was crowned Mansa. Some whispered that fate had chosen him. Others hinted at secrets and ambition behind the scenes. What is certain is that Musa brought a steady hand in a moment of uncertainty. He didn't seize power with violence. Instead, he gained trust by acting as a stabilizer, restoring order, uniting the court and reaffirming the authority of the Keita dynasty. It was a transition filled with both mystery and relief. In many ways, Musa's rise was a reflection of Mali's own story, bold adventurous, marked by risk and ultimately guided by wisdom. His time as Mansa would mark the beginning of the empire's most celebrated era. With Mansa Musa on the throne, the Mali Empire entered its golden age. The realm stretched farther than ever before, encompassing vast savannas, forests, and trading cities. Musa governed not only with the might of his armies, but with a sophisticated system of administration and diplomacy. The empire was a federation of kingdoms, each ruled by local leaders loyal to the Mansa. They sent annual tribute, rice millet, even weapons, and participated in grand councils that decided matters of trade, succession, and law. This system allowed Mali to remain united and prosperous, even as its territories expanded. Control over the region's trade routes brought merchants from across North Africa and the Middle East in cities like Timbuktu and Gao. Bustling markets sold everything from gold and ivory to books and fine textiles. River ports on the Niger, Senegal, and Gambia bustled with activity. Taxes on goods fueled the empire's wealth-funding armies, building palaces and supporting scholars. Yet Musa was careful not to rule by force alone. He worked to balance the interests of different peoples and faiths, earning loyalty through fairness and generosity. He brought stability in a time of growth and set standards for governance that would be remembered long after his reign. Under Musa, the Mali Empire was not just a land of gold, it was a center of culture, diplomacy, and opportunity, shining as one of the world's great civilizations. While peace and prosperity defined much of Mansa Musa's reign, the realities of empire could be harsh. Like many rulers of his era, Musa expanded Mali's borders through military campaigns. His armies captured neighboring cities and brought new lands under his control, sometimes taking thousands of captives in the process. Mali's military might was legendary. Blacksmiths forged spears, swords, and armor that equipped cavalry units feared across the region. Elite warriors known as Farimba led charges into battle. Their skills showcased not only in war, but in grand festivals that celebrated martial prowess as an art form. But war also brought suffering. Slavery was a fact of life throughout the region. Conquered peoples were taken as slaves, used for labor, sold to traders, or absorbed into society. Yet even as he ruled with a firm hand, Musa was known for rewarding loyalty and seeking peace when possible. His decision to listen to his people, change unpopular laws, and foster negotiation over brute force set him apart from many contemporary rulers. Society in Mali was complex, a mix of ethnic groups, religions, and traditions. The Mansa's ability to maintain balance and stability among so many different peoples was a major reason for the empire's longevity. Through war, law, and negotiation, Musa's rule revealed the delicate balance between strength and mercy that defines all great empires. Of all the stories about Mansa Musa, none is more legendary than his pilgrimage to Mecca. In 1324, Musa set out on a journey that would astonish the world, a caravan so vast it stretched beyond the horizon, with tens of thousands of attendants, soldiers, servants, and camels laden with gold. The route led through the deserts of West Africa, across the Nile, and into the bustling heart of Cairo. In every city and village along the way, Musa's generosity was unmatched. He gave away so much gold that, according to chroniclers, he caused inflation in Egypt for years. Merchants and rulers alike were stunned by the sheer scale of his wealth. In Cairo, Musa met with the Sultan of Egypt. Their meeting was a lesson in diplomacy. Musa humbly kissed the ground before the Sultan, diffusing tension and earning respect. His caravan's generosity left a lasting impression, filling the streets with stories of the emperor from the faraway land of Mali. The pilgrimage continued to Mecca, where Musa's retinue mingled with pilgrims from all over the Islamic world. Musa used the journey not just to fulfill a religious duty, but to build connections. He brought back with him scholars, architects, and craftsmen who would help transform Mali into a center of learning and culture. Musa's Hajj was more than a display of wealth. It was an act of faith, diplomacy and vision, forever changing how Africa was seen by the rest of the world. Mansa Musa's return from Mecca was the beginning of a cultural revolution in Mali, inspired by the wonders he'd seen. Musa invited poets, architects, scholars and jurists to his empire. Their knowledge would transform cities like Timbuktu, Gao and Niani into beacons of learning, art and faith. Musa poured his wealth into building grand mosques, libraries and schools. The most famous was the University of Sankore in Timbuktu, which soon attracted students and thinkers from across Africa, the Middle East and even Europe. Here, manuscripts were copied and studied, astronomy and mathematics were taught, and religious debates filled the halls. Malian society became more cosmopolitan. New ideas from architecture to philosophy blended with local traditions, creating a uniquely West African flowering of knowledge. Timbuktu, once just a trading outpost, became a legendary city, a symbol of intellectual pursuit and spiritual depth. Through Musa's vision, Mali was no longer seen merely as a land of gold, but as a land of wisdom, innovation and culture. The achievements of this era would echo for centuries, inspiring legends and drawing travelers from distant lands. No golden age lasts forever. After decades of prosperity and achievement, the Mali Empire began to face challenges. The death of Mansa Musa left a void that his successors struggled to fill. While some rulers tried to continue his legacy, internal rivalries and external threats began to tear at the fabric of the empire. Infighting between members of the royal family weakened central authority. Ambitious generals and governors sometimes acted independently, undermining unity. Meanwhile, new powers were rising beyond Mali's borders, eager to control the rich trade routes and cities Musa had once protected. As the centuries passed, attacks from neighboring kingdoms and nomadic groups became more frequent. The once great city of Niani was sacked. Even the mighty walls of Timbuktu could not always withstand the tides of war and time. Yet despite the decline, Mali's reputation lived on. Stories of Mansa Musa's wealth and wisdom traveled far and wide. His image appeared on European maps, inspiring generations to seek the riches and wonders of Africa. Though Mali's political power faded, the legacy of its golden age continued to shape the history and imagination of the world. Centuries have passed since Mansa Musa walked the earth, but his legend remains undimmed. For many, he is still remembered as the richest man who ever lived, a symbol of unimaginable wealth and golden opportunity. But the true lesson of Musa's reign lies far beyond the glitter of gold. Musa understood that true greatness comes from vision, wisdom, and generosity. He used his fortune not only to enrich himself, but to build bridges between peoples, support learning, and inspire a sense of possibility across continents. Under his leadership, Mali became more than an empire. It became a beacon of culture, diplomacy, and knowledge. Even after the empire's power faded, the echoes of Mali's golden age continued to inspire explorers, scholars, and dreamers around the world. Musa's story reminds us that wealth, when guided by wisdom and compassion, can change history, not just for a single generation, but for all who come after. As we look to the future, we can find hope in Musa's example, the belief that no matter where we begin, our actions and values can leave a legacy far greater than gold.